Will Miami be next in line, taking its shot at the ACC? We're talking Canes football for the next hour, of course, here at the Voice of College Football. Appreciate you being here on a Wednesday night with Cam Underwood from State of the U. We do it each and every Wednesday, 7 o'clock Eastern time. Cam, how you doing tonight?
Good, man. Good to be back. Sorry about last week. I had a little bit of a headache and went to go take a nap like I told Mark the next day. And a 20-minute power nap turned into like 2:30 in the morning, like disoriented, what is going on thing. So
you must have needed it.
It was right here, like behind my eyebrow. So I apologize for that for last week, but yeah, I did need it and everything. But miss you guys back here and everything. So glad to be here, talking some Canes, and just catching up with you guys, aka the fam.
I was just glad that you put my concerns to rest. I am not a worry-oriented person. I do not worry, but I thought this has never happened before. I just hope Cam's all right. Nothing's happened. Nothing urgent. No, anything like that. Okay.
Right.
So let's carry on with the Canes back on the field after a week off. And so it's been a few days that they've been back on the practice field. And as always, we like to remind everyone, it is difficult to gain too much from these practice sessions because, of course, they are generally closed to media. But have you been able to extract anything from this week or the first week from a few weeks ago?
Well, we switched the schedule after spring break. The first week was Monday, Wednesday, Friday to allow them to, depart with the rest of the students. But we've gone to starting on Tuesday. I don't know. I have to look at the email from athletics because I don't know how much I can share at their request. But the first day of the week is Tuesday. And if you follow a similar sequence to Monday, Wednesday, Friday, you should be able to figure out what the other days of the week. So we've only had one day of practice this week and everything. I know people are they're doing math with it kind of floating in front of their face like Zach Galifianakis, in the Hangover, like, doing the game theory and everything of what I'm saying. But, for the most part, the team is the players who are out there are healthy. Obviously, there are guys who are being held out. Elijah Arroyo is, leveraging that knee sleeve and offensive lineman sized knee brace, like the big boy, the solid or the steel knee brace. But he's starting to look like himself, which would be such a huge addition to the offense overall. And speaking of additions at the tight end position, Elijah Lofton, aka Brevin Jordan 2.0, like this is a kid who looks like he's going to find his way onto the field this year. He's made play after play. People are raving about what he's doing, so that's great. And just those kind of things. Obviously, Cam Ward is the truth, so having him work with receivers has been good. Again, hearing all positive things about Jakari Brown. And there are people who are, like journalists are there through practice, not the entire practice, but there, those who do not have a full-time other day job, like your boy. I can't just be like, yeah, boss, I'm not going to be here until 1:30 every day for whatever reason. I don't have that flexibility. But when you're a career journalist, you do. So people have been there, and like everything out of there has been like Jakari Brown looks like this is starting to turn the corner, and he's able to hit the broadside of a barn with his accuracy, and it's getting even better. So like those early returns and things are very positive. So, very excited about all of that. Excited to see what the final five on the offensive line is going to be. Obviously, when guys come back from injury, well, guy being Francis Mawanoa, and then going from there. So that's just kind of the lay of the land in a quick kind of way.
I am almost positive that over the last two seasons, Henry Parrish has been the leading rusher for the Ole Miss Rebels. Yes, he was at one point for the Ole Miss Rebels, but coming to Miami with 1,200 yards over the course of the last two seasons. And as soon as Cam let me know right before we came on here live, because I missed it, I told Cam I made this a regular practice for every day. I got into that habit. And when I get out of a habit, then I forget. And the transfer portal and the commitment list across college football is like a 3 times a day go-to for me, just to make sure I'm not missing anything. But I have gotten out of that habit. So I missed the news from the other day about Henry Parrish. But as soon as you told me that, Cam, what came to mind is a comment that you made during the last show about Henry Parrish, quality college football running back, but maybe, not maybe, definitely other guys on the roster with more upside, more talent, more speed, more home run ability.
Facts are facts. And even the one who's not necessarily faster is the presumed starter in Mark Fletcher, who just happens to be 6'2", 225 and will, run through your face, a la Marshawn Lynch. So yeah, we got different kinds of running backs in that room. And, if he wanted to be the guy, like really at the I was going to make an analogy, but that would then lead us towards another team who I am not a fan of. So if he wanted to be the lead back in the rotation, maybe that time has passed at Miami, with recruiting and development. So yeah, he is looking to go in the transfer portal like others. He could come back. But if you are thinking that he's going to go, which is what going in the transfer portal, would signal, again, for someone who has already transferred, but transfers in college are like high school transfers now, like whatever. You just go to the next team. There's no real restrictions. Miami would be left with Mark Fletcher, Chris Johnson, a couple freshmen, and Chris Wheatley-Humphrey and Jordan Lyle. You might want another body in that room. But yeah, I think that Henry Parrish was a stopgap kind of a guy. He's he went to Columbus, won a state championship here. He's a fine player. He's a good rotation guy and everything, but like you're recruiting players over him that you should. And like, remember the year that he was in high school, coming out of high school, and everybody was screaming at me, on these, videos, and shows on the website and everything. Oh, you should take Henry Parrish. He's a dog. He's the best. Miami got the best 2 running backs in South Florida that year, from Broward and from Dade. That was Donald Chaney Jr. in Dade County. Sorry, he's just better. And especially as a recruit with the profile before like all the injuries persisted into college, but even with the high school injuries, give me Donald Chaney Jr. and Jalen Knighton, one of like a handful of running backs ever to have 5,000 yards rushing in a high school career in Broward County in the state of Florida. What are we talking about? Like, eventually you can't take everybody, and Henry Parrish was the guy on the other side of the line. And I think you're seeing that again now when years down the line, remember, one of the recruiting rules, keep stacking classes. You have to intentionally try to recruit over guys and develop them and everything. And if they are average athletes with fine performance, there's nothing wrong with Henry Parrish. I would take him back on this team tomorrow. He can get his 450 to 600 yards for the team. I am not running him off and saying that he's a substandard player. Not at all. But when you get other guys with more athletic ability, eventually you're going to, skew, or not skew things, but go in that direction of the pure athleticism and, future potential, because you have to balance, production and potential in college because you're always rotating over the roster. So I think all those forces combined, made the situation for Henry Parrish to enter the transfer portal. But again, if he wants to come back, this is a player that I would accept back. He can play here. He has demonstrated he can play here. Boom. Maybe not with the volume of carries that he would personally like for himself, but he is a Miami caliber player. But if he chooses to go elsewhere, like all of the other players about whom I have no personal ill will or anything, I wish him the best in his career and, everything moving forward.
Parrish, generally an 8 to 10 carry guy per game, came out of the gate against Miami of Ohio and Texas A&M, had 2 really strong games, 9 carries for 90 yards and a touchdown against the Red Hawks and against a Texas A&M front that is one of the best in the SEC, 10 carries for 50. His standout game against Temple, 16 for 139 and 2 touchdowns. But generally, the North Carolina game, 13 for 73. Nothing wrong with that at 5.6 per carry. Finished off against Boston College at 11 carries for 111 yards and 2 touchdowns, and 11 carries against Rutgers as well at 4.2 yards per carry in that game. May have caught a bit of an injury here at one point because there were 3 consecutive games he barely carried the football. But besides that, was pretty integral to the offense. All right, folks, appreciate you being here at the Voice of College Football. Leave those comments and questions there in the chat. We appreciate the super chat comments and questions. Help us grow and build the channel. Falconer TRX is here with the super sticker. And then coming back with this one, Falconer TRX. By the way, he was not interested in my turf obsession. Right. And Falconer had a chat with Dave Wanstedt this week.
Oh, okay.
Interesting conversation with Dave Wanstedt last Saturday. His theory under NIL is that NCAA football will eventually be reduced to less than 40 teams, plus or minus something in that range, divided into 4 divisions.
I mean, that structure could fit. I mean, there's all kinds of different things. Like, I think that we're looking at, towards the last decade or 2 decades of the NCAA in general. I think there will be an oversight body, but I think that might be changing as well. And I mean, these are things that we'll see, but also remembering, like, since the TV networks run the sport, in that, ESPN is SEC and then Fox is Big Ten, where does this fit? Is the Fox League North and West, and then the ESPN League South and East, or whatever, like how does that part cross over or lay over on top of that? So there will be future movement and realignment and redistribution and all kinds of things like that. So I'm not saying that this is super crazy or anything, but like, I think that there are steps along this path and other issues to consider, when having these conversations.
I think the bulk of college football fans, especially those periphery fans, would not miss the Wake Forest and the Washington States of the world, but I would hate to see a 40-team college football universe and them just kind of use and abuse what is going to be an expanded group of 5 just to use them as non-conference fodder. That just doesn't sit well with me, but that's what we might be headed toward. One thing that could be a positive that could come out of this, because we just saw a very prominent 5-star offensive lineman transfer from Iowa to Alabama before he ever played a snap, even in practice, for the Iowa Hawkeyes. And that obviously doesn't sit well just generally with college football fans, that there's little commitment or attachment. But still, I, for one, and I believe most people are with me, don't want to restrict freedom of choice. That's what we all have the right to. So even though it's crazy and doesn't sit well with me as a whole, individually, I don't want them to be deprived of their rights in this country. But if we pay them, if they are formally paid, then they possibly sign a contract coming out of high school, and maybe that contract's for 2 years, maybe it's for 3 years, 4 years, whatever it might be. And that restricts in the NFL. The NFL does almost everything right, Cam, and you know that. Everything they touch turns to gold. Just about every move that they've made in the last 70 years has just been perfect. And this would be one. The way free agency is set up, I think there is a perfect balance between the average fan thinking and knowing 80% of my team is going to be back next year. So that attachment is held, but there is still this allure, this fascination, this interest in free agency. We may get a few new players. We may lose a few, but it's only a few. So it's a balance of stability, but with the excitement of movement.
Yeah, I mean, all of that is true. And, I've been following free agency for my Detroit Lions, just signed, a former Pro Bowl guard and let a guard go. So, I mean, it's not like the sexiest thing. It's not like we signed a free agent quarterback, but like, yeah, following those things along. But I just want to circle back to Kadyn Proctor, Alabama. So, like, Iowa self-reported a tier 3 violation for tampering with him. If you don't remember, I'm just going to give you the quick Cliff's notes. 5-star recruit, top 10 overall in America from Iowa, was committed to Iowa, flipped late in the process to sign with Alabama. But of course, that was just out of the goodness of his heart and wanting to play for Nick Saban. There was no financial inducement. There was no NIL. There was no anything like that because Nick Saban is a saint and God forbid that he would have done anything like that. Sure, right, whatever. Saban retires because he doesn't want to deal with other people having advantages that he himself leveraged or different things because, like I said, I've told the $40,000 briefcase story on here because I've seen the text messages and I know that as a confirmed fact that I've seen. So he leaves and everything because he said, I don't want to deal with this stuff, even though they were paying people when he was at Alabama, but we don't want to talk about that. Fine. He goes, Proctor, the same kid, goes home to Iowa, transfers back there. They then report and say, yes, there was a illegal connection. We're self-reporting this. And again, tier 3, that's like admitting to your boss that you took a 32-minute lunch on your 30-minute break. Like that's such a low. Now, if you're on like 17 million infractions, maybe that's going to do something. But like, if you're a normal employee in good standing, be like, hey, Mark, I took 32 minutes on my 30 today. Like that's the level of a tier 3 infraction. Like there's level 2 and then level 1 is like the lack of institutional control. That's why SMU got the death penalty. Like that's a tier 1 infraction. So that in like a tier 2, that's what Florida had with the who was the wide receivers coach with the coach with the bump rule, who Aubrey Hill, who bumped into Tracy Howard down here when he was recruiting for Florida years and years ago. You just happened to be down in the city like during a game week or whatever, during a dead period. And like, I know you're from the city, but like y'all had work in Gainesville in Alachua County, but you just randomly went. There's no Publix you could have gone to between Alachua County and Miami. Really, kid? So that's a tier 2 infraction. So it's even lower than that. But still, Iowa admitted we did have this infraction. So then Kadyn Proctor, I saw somebody make the joke. Apparently, he's a huge, this is the joke, that he's a huge women's basketball fan and he just wanted to see Caitlin Clark for free. So he got the Iowa student ticket discount or the free ticket to go watch her play some basketball and everything. But then, yeah, he's already posted on his own Instagram that he's back in Alabama. So, and that's like another thing that I talk about, that there's just free movement now. Like I know that players get 2 free transfers, even if they're not grads or anything like that. But even, yeah, like he literally used both of his transfers in the off season, since his coach, like since the last game, between the last game of the season and spring practice starting. But it's just interesting because all these, sorry, I have a fly in here. But yeah, all these different kind of things and whatnot. And people, they're self-reporting these tier 3 violations, which, I mean, that's reporting a hangnail or something, like whatever. But interesting to follow. And it also would be interesting because like people are talking about it because it's Alabama and it's Kadyn Proctor. He's like, their starting left tackle is a freshman and things like that. But like the vitriol of the conversation and commentary has been very incredibly muted, which I always want to wonder, what if it were Miami? You know what I mean? Like if it were Miami with a player of that same caliber, would the conversation be as muted and accepting of things? I'm not quite sure. And maybe that's me projecting. I will accept that. But hey, it'd be like that.
Muting and accepting of things from just the general college football public. Yeah.
Well, no, I mean, people with podcasts and shows and blogs and jobs who cover these sports and everything. Like there has not been the level of outrage which I expected to see from regarding the Kadyn Proctor and like specifically because it's Alabama, which, Saban built into a dynasty program, which is a heritage program in the sport. And then like this player is one of the best players at his position, and the longevity because he's a true freshman 5-star, slides in at left tackle at Alabama, goes home to Iowa, right? And then and then Iowa admits we tampered with the kid. Like, we're admitting our fault in this way, and people are talking about the portal and transfers and and like I just expected there to be more, just because there seems to be more energy about all of these individual things with other schools, including Miami. But this story has all of them together. Like, this is a perfect storm. If you wanted to talk shit about the state of college football and recruiting and NIL and like, if you wanted to, and there are people who want to, like, this situation is presented to you on a silver platter. Like, you couldn't tee the ball up better for like tee it high and let it fly.
Yes.
But as I've been looking and listening and reading, it has not been that. And it's just, and for me, being a Miami alum, running a Miami blog website and considering Miami, centering Miami in the conversation, and my thoughts are, I don't think that things would be as accepting if it were Miami centric. But again, that's me adding Miami to a situation which we are exterior from. So that's about that player and those schools. And that's that.
You're right. This situation has just about all the components of a big story and lightning rod type of conversations that could be capitalized upon. Very briefly, before we get back to Miami, just there are certain things within this entire process and timeline over the last year or plus that just, I guess it doesn't sit well with me, in that, number one, he has to understand, well, no, he's 19 years old, but his family, those people mentoring him should understand this is a big deal for the people you're committing to. For this school, this state, they don't have 5 stars on every street corner. You're a big deal. This school sees you as the fan base as, kind of a savior type. So first of all, you committed to them and flipped the day before National Signing Day. So
and we're committed to them for a long time, by the way.
Yes, you've done this to them before. And now you choose to leave Alabama. And it's not like he entered the transfer portal and said, I really enjoyed my 1 year at Alabama, but I want to explore my options, and I'm out here and I just want to look around and visit here and visit. No, it was Iowa. I'm going home. I'm going back to Iowa. So then that either makes you think, okay, he really missed being home, and they probably really stepped up to make it worth his while to come back home. Some combination of those two things. So then for him just a few weeks later to then be wooed back to Alabama.
Yeah. I agree.
All right, folks, Miami-oriented questions, comments, whatever you've got there in the chat. Before we get to anything else, unless you've got something, Cam, I did want to ask you about Clemson has come out, even with more force, even though Florida State's been the ringleader in terms of we're going to be out there, we're going to be the loudest, we're going to be the boldest. In terms of verbiage, Clemson was really out there with, this contract is nonsensical. It's, just all the terminology that I don't have in front of me right this second. Just they were extremely strong in their verbiage about just the unfairness of this incomplete situation, nonsensical reading, wrong, inconsistent with the plain language of the agreement, which we've always heard that this grant of rights was written in such a way, maybe masterfully, that it couldn't be disputed because it's so clumsily written, but others would say it was poorly executed. But Clemson comes out, and I will say the one thing before you can take off on this that I found interesting, and it's not in the article that I'm looking at. One of the main college football insiders, and I would credit them if I could remember which one, pointed out that everything we know, the two of us and anyone who has been closely watching college athletics is that these conferences, they are tightly knit. They go through a process of reviewing things, discussing things, voting on things before they take action. And the ACC just went after Florida State with this lawsuit without consorting with the rest of the conference and getting league-wide buy-in from its members.
Well, I mean, Florida State made no. The ACC precluded. They filed first, I believe is what it was. So they knew that Florida State was going to file suit, and then they, I am not a lawyer, but from
Nor am
what
I.
I heard from people who do have law degrees, including Bud Elliott, and he's on the show, every day or 4 days a week, is they're in cases such as this dispute, there is value to being the first to file. So the ACC, seeing that coming, they jumped the line and said, okay, we're going to put together a suit and file first in their dispute with Florida State about the grant of rights. The interesting thing that I gleaned, again, in my own way, as in like a person who knows how to read and everything, but not with a legal foundation and all that knowledge, what I found to be interesting was the specific point that Clemson seemed to be trying to fight on. You can fight on multiple fronts, and you can say, okay, they're like, no, it seemed to me from what was shared from different journalists, and they clipped out part of the filing, is what I saw was Clemson asserting that the grant of rights states that the television rights for each school are enforceable or dictated in the agreement as if and when this team or school is a member of the ACC, but makes no mention of if this school is a member of another conference or has disassociated with the ACC. So basically what I took that to be, and again, this is my interpretation, I could be completely and totally wrong, I'm just letting y'all know, is Clemson is saying, you are correct, ACC, Atlantic Coast Conference, that while our institution is a member of your conference, you hold all of the grant of rights for all of the games that we play. But if we removed ourselves either to independence or otherwise associated, you would not have the rights, because the rights are only enforceable if we are a member of the conference. So it seemed like they're trying to set up the lines to evaluate or of engagement right there, and saying, okay, like basically, yeah, if we're in the conference, sure, but if we're not, no. And it's one of those things like, is it explicitly stated or not stated if they are a member of elsewhere, or is there another clause or provision that has the entire length of the grant of rights regardless of conference affiliation or anything like that? I found that to be an interesting kind of focus for what they seem to be trying to lean on in their in their legal fight with the Atlantic Coast Conference. Again, that was from a little piece that I saw pulled out of the thing, put up on Twitter. I could be completely wrong. I could be missing other context and everything. I know that, AP Dirty Bird, if he's watching this, a good friend of mine from college who is a lawyer, is probably like, Cam, you were talking out of your keister. And I very well could be. That being said, so I just thought that was interesting from my estimation relative to, and that's different than what Florida State is saying, because Florida State is saying, like, basically the fee to get out is way too high, so lower that down. We can pay that, and they can pay that and leave. Could Miami follow suit? I don't know that Miami wants to be bold in that kind of a way. Again, Dan Radakovich, Miami's athletic director, who was at Clemson, then came to Miami. After he was at Miami, he was the first person to mention these things. And public schools, maybe have an easier facility to kind of take the blowback of public perception. And they're like, yeah, they're going to beat their chest and be out there a little bit more vocally. I think that, we're trying to move in silence a little bit more than that. I think also like Dan Radakovich is, I think, not to say that the other athletic directors are not intentional or calculating, but I think that he's calculating in a different kind of a way, especially at a Miami, a private school, smaller school and everything. Like he's really looking and picking his spot to like, because I don't think that he can, like Miami does not desire to go out there in a braggadocious way and be like, oh, this, we're suing this, we're gonna try going here, try going there, blah, 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 blah. I think he's waiting, letting some things move, letting that legal fullback from Florida State or Clemson clear a little bit of a hole and then figure it out and then go. So I mean, yeah, but at the end of the day, I do believe that Miami is going to be in that cadre with Florida State and Clemson and leaving the Atlantic Coast Conference. I hate this conference. They have never done right by Miami in any sport across the board. So it's long past time for us to go. And that's regardless of the football team not being successful and not winning the championship. Like, even if we had won championships in this conference and everything, like, look at Florida State, look at Clemson. Like, other teams, other schools who have had that kind of on-field success still are trying to break down the door to leave out of this place. I think that Miami has that same mentality. I look forward to landing somewhere else. I didn't click it, but I saw an article come down Twitter. There's 247. One of their national writers was like trying to predict the next round of realignment and had Miami going to the Big 12. With all due respect, go fuck yourself. Like, absolutely not. No, absolutely not. Mark, I apologize. I don't usually use language like that, and I don't use specifically directed language to a person like that either. But if you are thinking that Miami is going to go to from a third tier also ran conference to a third or fourth tier, let me stop before I really start spewing filth, floor, and filth. You must be out of your goddamn mind if you think that if there's going to be a realignment and Miami's not in that top cadre of whatever north, south, east, west, a la Dave Wanstead from the conversation he had with Falcon and TRX, whether it's one of the super leagues that looks like it's going to be the Fox or ESPN Super League. Like, if you think that the Miami Hurricanes, the University of Miami, is going to slide down to an also ran subsidiary, forgettable level of interaction at the highest level of this sport, get out of here.
And I will say that, of course, Cam's brain is always functioning in alignment with his heart, but there is a lot of heart there as well. But I'll speak as a completely unbiased person who follows the sport. That's not a fit. Miami to the Big 12 is not a fit in any such way. And Miami, because of history, brand, eyeballs, recruiting base, it's an attractive commodity for a conference like the Big 10 or the SEC. I see the fit as the Big 10, but the SEC as well.
Yeah, I see the Big 10 fit also. We talked about the academic profile of, the university and all those other kind of things. Yeah. But yeah, Big 12. Maybe that's why I didn't click on the article, because I saw it in the Twitter graphic. And I just kept, because then he's like, the same person was like, yeah, Florida State and Clemson to the Big 10. And I'm just like, they've been stopping for the SEC since forever. And like, I'm not saying that like what they desire is where it's going to be, but like, whatever, get out of here.
And I'm even trying to break free from the old school impression of what these conferences used to be. And the Big 12 is kind of the Plains and the Dust Bowl and Oklahoma and that. And I still think that's its foundation. That's its core. That's what it is. But obviously it's reached out to Arizona State. It's there, and it's reached out to Central Florida. So it's expanded, and it's not as regional as it once was, like the rest of the conferences, but still, I don't see it. To bring to light a couple of things here concerning this topic, the college football playoff format that has been extended now in terms of the television contract from 2026 through 31. So those 6 seasons tells us that the Big Ten and the SEC will be receiving $21 million per school per season. The ACC at $13 million. Okay. On the surface, without extrapolating, sounds like, okay, well, that's a big disparity, but they're huge schools, 21 million, 13 million, big deal. 18 teams in the Big Ten, 18 schools receiving $8 more million. That's, I did the math here, 114 million, 144 million more. So every college football postseason, this is in addition to receiving so much more from Fox and CBS and NBC in the regular season. Just in the postseason, the Big Ten, for example, will receive $144 million per year, more than the ACC. And then on top of that, it's, of course, the 6-year contract, $864 million gap between those two conferences if it plays out to the end.
I mean, that's just short of $1 billion with a B, like boy. Like, that's not chump change. So like, yeah, on a a micro level, you think, oh yeah, like it's only 8 million or 13 million, like here and there. But just like Mark detailed, it's actually not. I mean, like if that's if it hits the ceiling, like it could be anything less than that, but like you're still talking about north of $500 million. Like that's a $500 million, guys. Interesting. I clicked over to the comments, the live chat, just to see, the conversation and everything. Shout out to Rock and Ranch for your super chat, and not only, for the contribution, but also for the content. The biggest thing from the ACC conference countersuit today is claiming that Clemson was negotiating with the ACC confidentially on a business solution until Clemson filed suit. So yeah, that's very interesting because, if you're, negotiating a settlement or like a solution, like, oh, hey, so I have to know all of the parts of the contract of where we are to create a solution. And it's just like, cool. Yeah, no, that actually was the discovery that we needed because I needed to have that clause right there. And then we can actually sue you guys. And it's also interesting. I meant to bring this up earlier at the top, the beginning of this conversation. The ACC was has been intentional, and institutions will always try to propagate themselves at the expense of the individual, whether that's the individual institution that are members or like the individual people, because like it happens, right? But playing defense for so long, and it's been reported, like this is confirmed as true, that the only copy of the grant of rights exists in the ACC offices in Charlotte. Like people have like from each school or whatever, like you have to go to the office and check it out and like go to they only like let it in to the conference room. They'll bring it in to you, be like, cool, yeah, do what you need to do. Nothing leaves this room. Like, nope, there's no copies or anything. Like, that's it. So I just find it interesting because they're like, yeah, it's a thing that everybody is connected to, like all the schools are connected to because they've all signed it and everything. So like, why would we not have a copy of this contract that's, like governing how so many things are handled in terms of our finances? Like, no. We have the one copy for everybody. And you have to come to our house in our living room at our dining room or at our dining room table, to go view it. So I just find that as a interesting side note because like it might not be true, but you would be hard pressed to convince me that they didn't know, like the ACC conference didn't know that they had kind of gotten over. And they're like, yeah. So we're only going to have one copy. It's only going to live here because like if you have one on site at Virginia, Miami, wherever, you're just like, you know what? Just go through that with a fine tooth comb, every single line. I'll allocate a couple staff, and that's all you're going to do until you find something, right? It'd be easier to do that when you're able to, have, grant of rights Tuesdays. Like everybody's going to come in and like, we're going to go through a new 100-page section today. Yeah. As opposed to like having to pack up your legal department and send them to the place to go through it. But yeah, an interesting footnote and an interesting addition, Rock and Ren. I really appreciate that context because I didn't. I had meetings all day. I just got off of work right before I came on here, but I say that to say that I didn't even know that the ACC had countersued, let alone the point of conversation in that countersuit. So really valuable addition to the conversation. I appreciate it.
Thank you, Rocket Rant. Let's run through the Super Chat contributions, and we actually have a special comment coming in that I will read that Cam will enjoy as well. But let me make this one quick point in all this. Maybe this gets missed by a lot of people, and I got to think that this is a component in how this relationship went sour. ESPN launched the SEC network in 2014. And they worked extremely hard on it. They went full force on this to the point where the launch of the SEC network went to just about 1 million less homes than ESPN itself. They brought the SEC subscribership out of the gate to as many homes as ESPN2 and just under ESPN, like 90 some million homes right out of the gate. And they also poured a lot of production and big time talent into that network. And you can see the obvious difference between the ACC network and the SEC network. When you flip on the SEC network, the documentaries, the studio shows, all of it, you might as well be watching ESPN for the most part.
Yeah.
You watch the ACC network, it's good, but it's not quite as good. And it was launched 4 or 5 years later. And I don't know if this was ESPN being full of itself and thinking, hey, we just did this 4 years ago. This is easy. And this is just going to happen for us, and didn't hustle as much. Or maybe it was the ACC not pushing ESPN to do it first rate, like the SEC may have pushed ESPN to say, hey, if we're going in partnership with you, it's got to be first rate. And when the ACC network launched, it had a small fraction of the subscriber base, and wasn't done as well. Didn't make as much money, obviously.
Mm-hmm. I mean, you remember, like, we were all scrambling, like, for secondary subscriptions on trial. Like, I have Uverse here because that's what I have and have choose to contract, as opposed to Comcast. But it wasn't on Comcast and it wasn't on Uverse. It got on Uverse first, but still, that first game after we joined the ACC network that was on ACC network, like, I had to get a YouTube TV subscription for a week just on a trial to try, you know what I mean? Like, and I'm squarely in the footprint, and it was just like ongoing battles like that, and like, yeah, like, if you're talking about all of the ancillary content that's there, I mean, like, there's so much on the SEC network that's really, really, really top quality, whereas ACC network does still look like a really good, but still like a student production in so many ways. And like, you could have said, look, Clemson and Florida State football were better than Miami. Those were the draws when when the network started. So every game possible goes there. Duke basketball, Carolina basketball, half of their seasons are exclusively there. You know what I mean? Like, you could have easily done stuff like that to drive that. I mean, there could have been even more documentaries. And I mean, like, I know that, like, Miami's the brand like that. So we had the U and the U Part 2 on ESPN in the original 30 for 30 series and everything. So I'm not even saying that you need another one, but like, there's so much history in this conference that you could have leaned in that same way, right? But in the same way that the SEC network did, and they did not. And the SEC network, honestly, you could, and there's a thing that you probably could do with the ACC network as well. Randomly, because I worked in a school and I was very close with the dance director at that school. Did you know that Louisville and LSU are two of the best dance teams in America? Like, LSU contemporary and hip hop team for years. I watched a documentary years ago. It was on like the Varsity Cheerleading Network or whatever, and the episodes would come out every Wednesday. So, and I didn't have it was every Tuesday, and I didn't have Varsity Singers rehearsal at Miramar on Tuesdays. So I would go up to the front desk with my friend Tiffany, and we would watch it. And this one year, they had a move at LSU called the Winner. And it's not actually a technical skill. It's a thing that's kind of a hybrid of 4 different skills, but they're like, this is in the national championship routine. And so they had their skill board and everything, and the last skill on the right was the winner. And if you could not hit this skill, you would not be on the championship routine, because like even before the season at preseason camp in July, we're focused on a national championship. And like that's the kind of excellence that they exude. Why do you not have a season following the LSU dance team? Why do you not have a season following the Louisville dance team or something like that, which is incredible? The Miami Sensations, hello, well-renowned here as a top dance team, and routinely have people who leave that dance team and go to the Miami Heat dance team, which is damn near like for the last 15 years, almost every year, the best dance team in the NBA, right? So I'm just saying there's even that kind of content, which is not a football, baseball, basketball content base that you could lean into, and really, if you pushed it, people will watch it. You know, I watched every single episode of that cheerleading show, Last Chance U cheerleading. They called it Cheer. Greg Whiteley, same dude who did Last Chance. I watched every episode of those 2 seasons. That was incredible. You're telling me that you couldn't have that and other things that are not necessarily just a recap of the 1987 national championship Miami Hurricane team? There's such a breadth you could do. But even short of those things, the SEC network leans in to the regionality of things, to their local legends and whatnot. And there's just so much a richer base of content that like the ACC just doesn't care. What was his name? Swafford, who was the commissioner? Yeah, I think that he sold out the conference because he knew that that was going to be one of the last things he did, and said, I want the achievement of getting the channel opposed to like the quality of content or the widespread nature of subscribers or anything, because at the end of the day, I'm going to retire in 2 years. So I will be remembered for having secured the channel at all, regardless of the lack of quality. And I think that all of the teams and schools and everything, in a real fiscal way, up to $864 million, like Mark detailed a couple minutes ago, are all holding the bag for that man's hubris, because he wanted what he got and did not give a nary damn about the quality or the financial component of it. Just so long as, after being asked about it at ACC kickoff for multiple years, and had that Cheshire cat, who ate the canary grin. Hey, what's up with the ACC network? Is that coming? I have no comment at this time. The next year, hey, Swaff, is the ACC network? I don't know either, guys. I don't know. It's funny Allen Iverson, the practice rant. It's funny to me too, guys. I don't know. We'll see. Ha 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 ha. And then the third year, okay, cool. You caught me. I've been working on it for the last 5 years, guys. Yeah, we're going to debut the ACC network, blah, 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 blah. I'm 74 years old. I look like, Mac Brown's grandpa, great. Pat me on the back on the way out. Don't ask me anything else about that other than we're going to have that channel, because I don't care about anything with that. Not the quality or the finances, only the fact that it exists, even if it's terrible. Great. You're welcome. That's your Christmas present. Okay, bye.
Here we go. Falconer TRX. George is in Fuego tonight. Okay, that's good to know. All right. Thanks, Falconer.
He's going off in the chat. I've been clicking over. Yeah. It's a sight to see.
Light Skin Cage. Thank you so much. Much love. Question: if 2/3 of the teams leave the ACC, what's the realistic option for Miami, Big Ten, SEC? Playing devil's advocate, Miami struggled to hit 9 wins in a mid-ACC. Will rising to a way tougher conference help or hurt?
It's going to help financially. It's incumbent upon the program to improve performance. Those two things are, while they're related, they are independent variables, or they're related variables. But like, success on the field is not dependent upon the conference that we're in. Realistically, I think that, all options are available. Again, personally, my view of things is the profile of the University of Miami holistically fits more with the Big Ten than the SEC. The only thing that really fits with the SEC is our geographical location. But is that an option? Absolutely, 100%. Now, I don't know if the SEC would really push for all 3 Big 3 Florida schools. the team in Alachua County, the team in Leon County, and the Miami Hurricanes to be in the same conference. That would be interesting. But all potential avenues or all potential landing spots are possible. But yes, would it be easier to go to another conference that was not as stacked with talent as the Big Ten seems to be and the SEC? Could be, but especially when you take into account the financial component, like if you really want to be a program and a school that can compete for a national championship, even in the universe of what is possible, I think that, it's pretty much shaping up. Big Ten or SEC will have to be the destination. And I think that is possible.
Falconer coming back with this one. DW said, NFL model, all players paid by TV money.
I mean, like, there is an element of that because the teams do get money. I mean, it's like baseball with revenue sharing. Like, that all comes from, the TV contracts and the local contracts and things like that. True. Like, yeah, they are. And I mean, you could, in the same way as changing the foundational structure of college football oversight, which, again, I believe that the NCAA is going the way of the dodo bird, but like, you could pay players with the TV money. It's a thing that can happen. Like, I don't know why we got to continue to pretend like it's not, but again, there are things that, there are concerns with being employees and collectively bargaining items and things like that, which, would come down, but I'm not against any of that. It's really just, sometimes things got to change, and it looks like that change is forthcoming. Maybe not imminently, maybe not tomorrow, but like, I think that we continue to move in that direction.
Falconer coming back with this one. Iowa nice. My wife is from Iowa. Okay.
The infamous wife that had you miss the show a couple times because you were going out for anniversary dinner and then on your anniversary trip and everything. Absolutely. Hey, that's awesome, man.
Falconer, Miami got AAU status to go to the Big Ten, and then follows up with this one. Florida State does not have academics to go to the Big Ten. I don't know that that's necessarily the case. Based on my very minimal research, both schools are pretty much on that same line.
Yeah, I mean, I would say FSU is borderline. I think that, we are in that same range. I think that the AAU status, the research university status that we did obtain is like a big thing, a big step. So it's like, honestly, it's like college applications, guys. It's like, oh, these two candidates are pretty equal. Oh, you have this one thing that sets you apart in that kind of a way when every current member school of the Big Ten does have that designation status. That could be a big, tiebreaker. I mean, if they were to consider both, for one spot, but I think that the Big Ten would be very interested, and they would sprint to the table if we all of a sudden, put down our differences. And instead of being the Hatfields versus the McCoys, the Hatfield-McCoy coalition of Miami and Florida State came together and said, hey, we're trying to come over there to the Big Ten. Boy, that contract would get executed real quick. There would be, we're going to have a chancellor's meeting tonight at 8:30 p.m. Eastern. I don't care if you're out in California, USC, and UCLA. Hey, that's only 5:30 your time. You haven't even left the office yet. Pop on this Zoom so we can talk about this so we can get that done because they're coming here tomorrow. That would get done so quick. Oh my God.
When all this first started to break, Oklahoma, Texas, that was the first movement, obviously.
Yeah.
My comment was, if I'm the Big Ten, I'm immediately going to Florida and going after Miami and Florida State.
I shared that opinion, and then they said, cool, we see your South Florida focus, but looking at a larger television market because they already extended to the New York market with Rutgers. How about we get the number 2 market in LA instead with, a top top 7 public university, and UCLA, that is like a really incredible academic school. I don't know if y'all know that, but it is. And then another top tier private institution in the same area, like USC and Miami are like mirrors of each other, just, you know, bi-coastally. But the fact of UCLA and USC being in that LA market for our like, I think that was the thing. But like, yeah, I was with you on like, yeah, it makes sense to, you know, come down into Florida for that expansion. But, you know, I think that the next round of expansion, or the changing landscape, yeah, I think that, you know, Miami, Florida State, and, you know, Clemson are going to be at the forefront of that for sure.
Falconer, ESPN equals SEC on purpose.
Yeah.
Light Skin Cage, appreciate you. Thank you so much for being here. ACC is horrid, but it is helpful. But is it helpful or hurtful to move to the Big Ten or SEC when they are littered with top 25 teams? Devil's advocate, is 7-5 perpetually in a tough conference worth the money? Maybe wait till Miami can compete to move.
I'm going to push back on 7-5 perpetually, because I'm not going to accept that as the state of affairs. I believe that Mario Cristobal has us going in the right direction. There's another side conversation in the chat going about Cam Ward and his abilities and things like that. This season is ready-made for success. I believe that we are a season away from the roster holistically looking the way that he wants it to be, and being able to compete every single year. I'm not saying that we're going to win every single year, but I'm not going to sit here and accept 7-5, even in a hypothetical, you know, as like perpetual things. Has Miami fallen short of performance over the last 20 years? Yes. Are there explanations for that? Yes. Are we intentionally going in a different path to hopefully improve those things? Yes. Have we like really exceeded 7 wins with Mario Cristobal? No, I admit that. But no, I'm not. I don't look at it as binary, as in winning 10 or more and being in a non-Big Ten SEC conference, or going 7-5 and being in that conference. I don't think that those are. I don't agree with the foundation of the hypothetical. And I do believe, yes, the extra money, our portion of that potential $864 million difference gap, is enough to necessitate and to, you know, go with that move 100%, while chasing improved on-field performance along that way. 100%.
And that, again, is just the playoff gap. That's not even the regular season gap.
That part.
Yeah. You go to the Big Ten or the SEC.
Yeah, 100%.
Falconer TRX, Cam's interview to be a network program director. Sure.
Hey, man, look, I know you guys read our stuff at State of the U. I know I've been doing that for a decade. Like, I've pretty much been doing that. You know, I'm almost out of ideas. Lord, I have no idea what we're going to do this full summer, because when I took over as managing editor, I was like, cool, I want to do all of these different things eventually in terms of our summer content stream, right? So the games we love bracket that we did years ago, entirely me. The number countdown, I know that had been done, but not with me and not in the way that we did it. So like, that was a thing. You know, why I became a Miami Hurricane, like the recruiting rules, like so many of these large scale, you know, content projects that we've done, that you know and love, that we've brought to you, sprung forth from my brain. So yes, I would welcome that. Falconer TRX, I appreciate your support in my candidacy. If anybody from the ACC network is watching, follow me on Twitter, shoot me a DM. You know, if you know my name, you could probably figure out my email address. So, you know, hey, go ahead and hit your boy up. I got ideas. I got plenty of ideas, especially for visual, you know, for television productions and like content things that you could do relative to every school and like raise the bar for the ACC network. Light work. Now you got to get people to do it, but oh yeah, no, I have all of those ideas. So yeah, Cam Underwood for ACC Network Program Director. Hit me up.
I love it. And I both thank and apologize to Dylan Sherry. He has been very patient. He sent me this message on Facebook on February 28th, and I wanted to make sure that I was getting to the right. Is that the one that? No, that's not right. That should be it. Can we see that? Let me pull up this window. So Dylan
Sherry,
typically
former
cannot.
State of the U contributor, Dylan Sherry.
Really?
Yeah, Dylan Sherry wrote with us for a couple years.
Okay, well, can I get that off the screen? No, they keep replacing each other. All right. So Dylan writes, "Hey, Mark, first of all, I love the content. Hardly ever can watch the live show, but watch the replay with you and Cam religiously, so forth and so on. Two things. I have a question. I want you to ask Cam, and also I want to support the show. So Dylan, thank you so much for supporting. We appreciate what you have sent in." So he is asking here, I know a week before spring, you all probably have a show idea. I was curious your and Cam's opinion going into year 3 of Mario. If you look at the wins and losses of Richt, Diaz, and Cristobal, they are ridiculously similar, with Mario needing a big season without getting behind the 8 ball. My question is, which year 3 team would you take? Richt in 2018, Diaz in 2021, Cristobal 2024.
Let me
Be interesting to see people opinion from roster to coaching staff comparisons for those years.
That's a real good question. I see now this website. So see this. You want to not load when I need a roster in the worst way. Like I can't give a full accounting because I don't have it off the top of my dome.
We could always table this.
Let's put a pin in this one, especially you're talking about coaching staff comparisons and well as the team on the field. Let me sorry, I'm here at my workstation. And I have all kinds of stuff. So I am going to write myself a note. So CMR 2018, Manny 2021, and Mario 24.
And while Cam continues to take note there, again, Dylan, thank you so much for the question and for the contribution, and for everyone that contributed tonight. Thank you so much for your super chats. Just also keep in mind, Venmo, PayPal, and Cash App, it's a little bit more effective, if you know what I mean. Just let me know that it's for the Miami show. All right, Cam.
Yeah.
State of the U this week.
Yeah, man. So, just a couple of things talking about the end of, my guy Kappa Kane wrote a thing to start spring practice. Mike Schiffman, yeoman's work from him through basketball season, which unfortunately saw Miami lose their final 10 or 11 games this year, which was pretty ridiculous. Coach Larinaga said, that the basketball team did not respect winning enough. They took it for granted after the last 2 years.
You went to the Final Four 2 years ago,
last
correct?
year. Last year. Last year was Final Four. Year before was Elite Eight. So yeah, that maybe started smelling themselves a little bit from some of the things. Especially to go from 11 in a row to end the season, and even before that, there were some really bad losses, including to at home to a Louisville team that had not won on the road in 2 calendar years under Kenny Payne. But yeah, so we had some stuff about that. Craig T. Smith has been up there with just a couple of things. So yeah, we're gonna just continue to bring you some stuff. Obviously, I need to let my fingers do the walking. I know that I keep saying that, but every time I go to sit down and do something, there's another fire to put out at or metaphorical fire to put out at the secret day job and everything. But we're going to get that. But we always are bringing you great content over there at stateoftheu.com. So please come on over and fan with us. We do have, like I said, some great stuff, some good conversation. I think there's another couple pieces that I forgot to list down for you. But you know what? If you want to find out what they are, stateoftheu.com. Go on over there, fan with us, interact with it, and we will continue to bring you great stuff and do so moving forward as well. So we appreciate your support. Still here. I'm still here. Just after early signing day, I was a little blogged out, not going to lie. But, we're going to find that muscle. We're going to reenact that and get it going popping for you, as always.
6-4 in the ACC turned into 6-14. Wow.
And then lost the first game of the ACC tournament, which was the 11 in a row to close the season. So, yeah, exactly.
All right. And as we leave you, thank you so much, Falconer. One mango season away.
I think that's Ja'Carri Brown, but the Miami Hurricanes, I think that mango is going to be pretty darn ripe this year. And to Falconer TRX's other point, he would take Mario's 2024 team out of those three teams he's building for the long run. I believe he's building for sustained success, but also to take advantage of the situation that is before us now to push for success this season. Just like Ole Miss is going all in on this year, just like Florida State did last year. This is a burn the boats, all in, everything to the center of the table season for the Miami Hurricanes. There will be another season. There will be another opportunities, but not like this, not with Cam Ward, not with the like everything is here. So, this, burn the boats. In olden times, like that's how they got around, with their triremes and everything. But if they're like, hey, look, we're all in on this battle, we pull up on the shore, we burn that boat. So either we take over this place and we figure out how to go over land home, or they're going to bury us under the land. But it ain't no running back to the boat, ain't no running away from this fight. We are here 10 toes down, and the only way that we are going is forward. And that's the Miami Hurricanes for this season, and the potential is there. And hopefully Mario and this team realize that potential, turn it into positive performance and results in wins on the field.
Fun conversation, everyone. Appreciate you being here. Bring a friend next week, or 5 or 10 or 50. Remember, we'll be here on Wednesday nights at 7 o'clock Eastern time. Sometimes we've got to switch up. That's why you subscribe, hit the bell for the notifications. Join Cam at State of the U. Cam, thank you so much. You make this work. We appreciate it, as always, sir.
Always, always. And again, good to be back here with you guys. I'll talk to you soon.